everyone. Thanks for tuning Blaque in once again to Authentic Black Goddess TV. I'm your hostess, QueenAShakur. And as you're coming in, this is also the second dose of your daily vitamins. And as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click the notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. All right. Hello, Jay, Moimiko, Brianna, Soldier M, Nessie, Just Biz, The Conscious Room, Trisha, Brianna. See Mommy Mac, I see you, Lee, The Color Black, Pinky T, Oyela. Hello, Ray Williams. Favorable Child is in the house. Tarbara Brothers, C Stan, Christine, D Hustle 909, Reddy King. Vince I Am from the UK is Black. Nat Turner Jr. All right, Nicole, I see you. So shout out to everyone in the chat and everyone tuned into the Queen. Let's go ahead and get it popping. Everyone, please go ahead and like and share this video if you haven't done so already. Thank you in advance. Now, listen to this. Now, you all remember the story I told you about the little old racist judge in Tennessee, the one who was routinely locking up little black children, talking about she's the mother of the county and all that foolishness. And she was just having the police make up charges, right? There weren't even laws to lock up black children. Well, now she's decided to leave the bench. So Tennessee judge who routinely jailed children announced she's retiring, but traumatized former detainees says she's leaving the bench to avoid guilt. Well, I disagree. I don't think she's leaving to avoid guilt because I don't think that she feels any guilt. Hello, Cole and Christopher. I don't think she feels any guilt. At the end of the day, she's just leaving because she's tired of people talking about her and calling her a racist piece of shite, which is exactly what she is. All right, so a Tennessee juvenile court judge who received backlash for routinely arresting and jailing children has announced that she plans to retire this year. Now, I want y'all to pay attention because when they say that she received backlash for routinely arresting and jailing children, they say children as if it's all types of children. It was only and specifically black children. That's the part they're leaving out. It wasn't little white children, little Mexican children. No, it was only black children. Okay, let's get that straight. Now, Donna Scott Davenport, a judge in Rutherford County's juvenile court, said she didn't plan to seek re-election for the position that she's held since 2000. She says, after prayerful thoughts and talking with my family, I have decided not to run for re-election after serving more than 22 years on the bench. Well, that's 22 years too long as far as I'm concerned, honey. It's no telling how many black people's lives she ruined with her racist piece of shite self while she sat on that bench wearing a black robe instead of the white Klan's robe that she should have really had on. But let me continue. This is what Davenport said in a statement. She said she's been on the bench 22 years and she's not going to run for re-election. Now, her office did not respond to requests for comments. She says, I will always look back at my time as a judge as one of the greatest honors of my life. And I am so proud of what this court has accomplished in the last 2 decades and how it has positively affected the lives of young people and families in Rutherford County. I wish my successor the best and hope that this job provides them the same fulfillment it has provided me over the years. So she wants them to be racist like she was and lock up little black kids like she did and have the police make up laws that don't even exist in order to do so. Pay attention. Now, Davenport's term ends in September. Her retirement announcement came one day after state legislators in Tennessee issued a resolution to remove her from the bench. So far, 2 candidates have announced that they're running to fill her position. So last October, an extensive report by ProPublica and Nashville Public Radio found that Davenport orchestrated a system to arrest and jail children, many of whom were black. No, all of them were black, but let me continue. Davenport used a process that included an always arrest policy. That's what it was called, always arrest, in which children were arrested by police and taken to juvenile detention centers where a jailer who was appointed by Davenport used a filter system to decide which children to hold, and the ones that were held were black. So anyway, the children later appeared before Davenport and juvenile court. Now, Jacob Summers, who told Insider that Davenport threatened to lock him up until he was 18 if he didn't straighten up, said the judge appeared to be retiring just to avoid guilt. Summers was one of the first, or one of almost 1,500 plaintiffs in a class action lawsuit against Rutherford County that was settled for $11 million. Now, Kyle Moore's mother's head, said one of the attorneys in the class action lawsuit said hundreds of claims for settlement money were submitted to the claims administrator following the lawsuit. Plaintiffs who were illegally arrested could get $1,000, and those who were illegally detained could get $4,800. Now, Mother's Head said, also said that the filter system used by jailers to decide which children to detain was no longer in place at Rutherford County Juvenile Detention Center. A 2017 preliminary injunction on the system was made permanent as part of the settlement agreement for the lawsuit. They say the always arrest policy is no longer in effect either. This was not the result of a court order, but rather the law enforcement agencies changing their juvenile arrest policies in response to our lawsuit. That's what Mother's Head said. And so Akira Lawrence, who's 22 years old, said she was arrested dozens of times between the ages of 11 to 17. Now, can you imagine? Dozens of times between the ages of 11 and 17. And that she appeared before Davenport numerous of times. She said none of the charges against her was for drugs or violence. She says, we were treated like animals and we were just kids. I was treated like I murdered someone, and that was never the case. They acted like I was just horrible. You know why this is so interesting? Because you see, it's many of these racist judges who do these things to Black children, but they'll be the same judges who will turn around and allow white teenage rapists, like the judge that I reported on the other day, just to reverse their convictions and let them go free. Because, hey, they don't want to send white kids to jail, even when they deserve to go. Even when they go out here and commit murder, rape, mayhem, all types of mischief and felonious capers. They don't want to send them to prison. Brock Turner was another one. Need I go on? Brooks, Skylar Richardson. Should I stop now? Cragen Grooms, Kyle Rittenhouse. The names and the list go on and on. They don't want to ruin white people's lives. They have no problem ruining Black children's lives. That's what they don't have any problem doing. So now, anyway, Lauren said that she was traumatized by her experience at Rutherford County Juvenile Detention Center, and that it was one of the reasons that she moved out of the county. She said, I have post-traumatic stress disorder from my childhood. Lauren said that Davenport's retiring meant there was no accountability for how children like her were treated. She said, there's no way that they should just let her retire. How could you say that you helped us? And they absolutely didn't help them. And she shouldn't just be allowed to retire because she gets to keep all of her pension and everything else. Now, following initial reports of Davenport's practices while on the bench, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee called for a review of the judge. Such a review would be conducted by the Board of Judicial Conduct, which can file public reprimands on judges as well as formal charges. Yes, that's what I'm wondering. Why isn't she charged with all of this? She should be facing a trial and headed to prison. Now, Davenport received a public reprimand in 2016 after she referred to a parent as a sneaky snake in the court and called the attorneys conniving. Clearly, she was projecting herself onto them. I mean, she was the most conniving piece of shit you could manage. And she was in charge. She was on the bench, issuing out sentences and all of that. And she was the sneaky snake as far as I'm concerned. Now, Barbara Peck, the communications director for the board, previously told Insider that she couldn't comment on whether there was an investigation into Davenport because of confidentiality. So in other words, there's no investigation. She says if an investigation leads to public disciplinary action, such as a public reprimand, the reprimand will be posted on the board's webpage. If formal charges are filed against the judge, that would likewise be made public. Well, we already know they're not going to file any charges. That's why they're just letting her go ahead and retire. So in a comment to Insider, Peck said the board loses jurisdiction to reprimand or charge a judge if they retire. And that's exactly why they let her do that. So they couldn't charge her. Now, she says once a judge retires or resigns the Board of Judicial Conduct loses jurisdiction and cannot take any further action in a pending matter. Thus, it is not possible to formally charge a judge with an ethics violation or for discipline to be imposed once a judge leaves office. Now, sometimes, however, resignation or retirement is the end result of an investigation or the form of discipline imposed. So in other words, they get away scot-free with no accountability at all, no consequences for their nefarious, illegal practices and actions. So for Lawrence, the news of Davenport's retiring, seemingly without any consequences, made her feel helpless. She said the judge's comments on how she positively affected the lives of young people were all false. She says, it's not positively. I'm about to cry. It hasn't really positively affected families at all, Lawrence says. I can't believe this is even happening, and there's nothing I can do. Well, I tell you what, there'd have been something I would have done. Okay? So anyway, there you have it. Once again, yes, favorite child, as usual. Exactly. Otis says Rittenhouse judge. Yes, absolutely. Many of these judges are all the same. But you know what's very interesting? Judge Olu Stevens from Louisville, Kentucky, the black judge, remember how they were so quick to suspend him for 90 days without pay because he called the prosecutor, Tom Wine, racist. And guess what? The prosecutor, Tom Wine, he absolutely is racist. I mean, they're mad because he told the truth. And they also made him apologize. Honey, I wouldn't apologize for nothing. I said what I said. He's a whole racist. Who's mad? I don't care. That's what I would have told them. Okay? So anyway, there's that. Everyone, please get those likes up. Please like and share. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Now let's talk about these thugs that helped Derek Chauvin murder George Floyd. Yeah, they're headed to trial. The federal trial begins for 3 former police officers charged in George Floyd's death. Jury selection is set to begin Thursday in the federal trial of 3 former Minneapolis police officers who were on the scene when fellow officer Derek Chauvin knelt on George Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes and ultimately killed him. Now, this week's trial is one of a series of legal consequences for the 4 ex-cops charged by federal and state authorities in Floyd's killing, which set off a wave of global protest over racial justice and police accountability after it occurred in May of 2020. Chauvin, who is white, and Floyd, who was black, and a video of the arrest showing Floyd lying face down on the street and repeatedly saying, "I can't breathe," as he became unresponsive. Now, the footage captured the attention of the world and served as a key piece of evidence at Chauvin's first or at his state trial last year. 3 other former Minneapolis police officers, Tao Theo, J. Alexander Keyoung, and Thomas Lane, will now stand trial in federal courts on charges that they violated Floyd's civil rights by failing to provide him with medical aid during the encounter. Now, Theo and Keyoung are also charged with failing to stop Chauvin's use of force. They say this trial is really unique and important because it does present the question of duty of officers on what they didn't do, as opposed to reviewing actions themselves. This is Mark Osler, a former federal prosecutor and law professor at the University of St. Thomas, told NPR. Now, the Associated Press reported that Keyoung knelt on Floyd's neck and that Lane held his legs down while Theo kept bystanders at bay. Chauvin isn't on trial with the other officers because last month he went ahead and pleaded guilty to federal charges of depriving Floyd of his civil rights. Now, a Minnesota jury found Chauvin guilty of Floyd's murder in a separate state trial in April of 2021, and he is now serving a 22.5-year prison sentence. The other 3 officers, Theo, Keyoung, and Lane, have also been brought up on state criminal charges of aiding and abetting murder and manslaughter. But a Minnesota judge delayed that trial until after their federal case, according to the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. The state trial is expected to begin in March. Now, the Justice Department has also launched a separate civil investigation into possible patterns of discrimination and excessive force in the Minneapolis Police Department. In case you forgot what the thugs look like, here's their photo. That's them. And here's the thing. Shots on target said, hope those thugs rot in prison. I do as well. Louise says, wow, they violated his civil rights, federal hate crime. Exactly. It actually was a hate crime, but they never charged the police with that. You know, 9 times out of 10, or shall I say 10 times out of 10, when racist police officers murder black people and lie and say they fear for their lives or whatever BS excuse they give, that's usually a hate crime. But they're never going to charge them with that. And as far as these black men and women, even teenagers being hung from trees, and they say it's suicide, and the police immediately say that when they get on the scene, don't take any evidence, don't gather any type of fibers, DNA or whatever, don't gather any soil or whatever, and they just instantly say it was a suicide. It's usually, in my opinion, the police that are involved in those things. That's just from the history of this country. If we look back at the history of this country, isn't it always the police who are involved in the Klan and who are out here lynching black people? I mean, because they are the ones who can get away with it more so than anybody else. And many of the police are involved in Klans and other wannabe white supremacist groups. And that's just the facts. And if you don't believe me, well, then listen to the FBI, because they released a report a few years ago saying that the white supremacist hate groups had infiltrated the police departments. Now, although I beg to differ, because I don't think they infiltrated the police departments, I think they were always in the police departments. And the only ones that I think infiltrate the police departments are actual good cops who are actually trying to do the right thing. But see, when they infiltrate the police departments, they turn up dead or they get fired and lose their pensions. And I want y'all to remember something, because they swept this story under the rug. I could not, for the life of me, find this story anywhere. Do you all remember about 2.5 to 3 years ago, there was a black gay man who became the first chief of police? I can't remember what state he was in, but he mysteriously turned up dead. Now, y'all know those other cops killed him, and they swept that story right under the rug. They murdered that man because he was black and he was LGBTQ. Now, I don't care what they say. Where was LGBTQIA when this was going on? Because I find it interesting that when they had people out there protesting for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, they wanted to come out there and talk about Black trans lives matter and all this, that, and third. But they didn't say anything when that black gay chief of police turned up dead. I didn't hear a peep from any of them. And that story got swept right under the rug, like I said. So, Fight for Black said, and where was LGBTQ? Exactly. Where were they? Why did they stand up and fight for that man's rights and demand justice? That was the time when they should have been demanding justice. Now when we out here protesting about George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, which had nothing to do with LGBTQ or IA. I'm just saying, they didn't say anything about that black man. Okay? Didn't his life deserve justice? It did. And nobody said anything. They just allowed it to go quietly away and be swept under the rug. And I really have a problem with that. So anyway, yes, they're hypocrites. Anyway, with that all being said, I'm going to conclude this broadcast. I want to thank you all for tuning in once again. Please like and share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I'm going to be going live with your last dose of your daily vitamin on the original QueenAShakur channel. We're going to be talking about Biden. So a former White House doctor, I believe it's Ronnie Jackson, he's demanded that Biden take a cognitive test. And he's demanded this before, but he did so again just the other day because Biden clearly is losing it. And I know that people can see this. And, you know, it's really funny because the Democrats insisted that Trump take a cognitive test when he was in office. And so Trump took one and he passed with flying colors. The question is, why won't Biden take that test? Why are they trying to avoid it at all costs? I'm just curious. So anyway, we're going to talk about that, but we're also going to talk about Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown is going off and saying that there's nothing wrong with his mental, okay? And then Malia Obama, Barack and Michelle's oldest daughter, they said she was caught smoking. Now, here's what I think is funny about that. I don't care that she was smoking. I mean, it's news and it's trending, so I'm going to report it, of course. But what I find interesting is they thought this was a headline, that Malia Obama was smoking. What was she smoking? A cigarette, right? But they didn't want to talk about Hunter Biden smoking all that crack. Y'all paying attention? They don't want to say anything about that, huh? They didn't want to say anything about Hunter Biden smoking that crack. Had a whole crack pipe in his mouth, sitting in the bathtub, looking a hot mess. And let's not forget the video footage that I showed you all of him sitting there rambling on the phone and telling all his business and exposing his own self and talking real crazy when he was high on crack. Now, I don't know why they didn't think that was the headline, but they think Malia Obama smoking a cigarette is. Okay. All right. But anyway, everyone please like and share. And I hope to see you on the next chat. It starts at 5:30, so you got 6 minutes. All right. Please like and share. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at QueenAShakur. And also please follow the QueenAShakur fan page. And you can find me on Twitter at BGoddess27. Peace.